Howdy, folks. It's time to get started. I know. I hope y'all can hear me because, again, you know the deal with the city ordinance. Okay. My name is Ramon. I'm the vice president for this Texas Freedom Force. I'm glad y'all showed up today. This is one of the best celebrations that we had. We've done it. This is the 6th year in a row. And we try to educate people and also let them know this is all about the defenders of the Alamo. This is not a political deal, even though some people want to make it political. This is about our love for Texas and our love for our freedom here. Because if it wasn't for these folks fighting against a tyrannical general, guess what? Texas wouldn't be here. Yep. So as every Texan knows, our pride comes from this battle, comes from the men that are on the cenotaph, and many more others that were not here, that don't have their name, but we know in spirit they will never die. Now, before I introduce the guests here, I want to apologize for that mess behind us. That mess had nothing to do with what we're doing. I apologize to every single Texan because I'm normally the one that's bringing everybody information of what's happening here. That way we nip this in the bud or go head on and say, what the heck's going on? That shouldn't be happening. The main reason it's happening is because of the Reimagine the Alamo plan. Exactly, it's still continuing. We told many folks during the last election that Buckingham would not do a doggone thing to stop it. And what we did was we confronted her in a couple of little deals that she wanted to speak at, and we asked her that question. If you get elected, would you stop the Reimagine the Alamo plan? Her answer, well, I'll have to look into it. I want to see how far they've done. That's not the answer we want. No. And it's just not this group here. As every Texan that we've talked to across the state has said that. Stop the Reimagine the Alamo plan. Yep. So it's not just our ideal, it's every Texan. That's what that mess is back there for, because of her. And I told everybody that would listen, if you vote for her, it's just George P. Bush in a skirt. Because everything that he's fought for as the Texas Land Commissioner, she's going to be pushing his agenda. The bad part is there's a few people that reached out to me and said, you're right. Well, guess what? It's too late. Yeah. But we are not going to discontinue the fight. We're going to continue fighting this deal. So, just to let y'all know, again, I apologize. Now, I want to go ahead and just get this started with our first speaker of the day. If some of y'all are falling asleep, I guarantee y'all going to be wide awake when she's finished speaking. I'm pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Arredondo Lynch. She's Everybody, listen up. You'll learn something.
Thank you for coming today. I'm Dr. Alma Arredondo Lynch, and I live in Concan, Texas. And I know most of you like visuals because that's the only way you can remember details. So what I did was, when we come and remember the Alamo didn't just appear. The Alamo has been there, and it was fought for and died for by both Mexicans, Tejanos, Americanos, because that's how they call them in the book. And so I brought a map so y'all could see what we're talking about and how this came about. This first map shows you that Texas, being part of Mexico, was considered part of Coahuila after they separated from Nuevo Santander. And so the central government was down in Mexico, Monterrey. Look at how far Nacogdoches is. The first little villages or communities that were that held this area from Mexico. But we were getting Americanos and some Tejanos who didn't want to be under Mexican rule. They wanted independence and they wanted to break those shackles. And so we have Nacogdoches, and then we have La Bahia, and then we have San Antonio. So my story starts with General Joaquin Arredondo. Joaquin Arredondo was way down here fighting at Soto La Marina. But he had great aspirations. And so what he did, and you're not gonna believe this, we had a Mexican national by the name of Gutierrez de Lara that went to Washington, D.C. and asked Madison to help him establish a free Texas. Madison was in agreement, but he didn't want to stir up any trouble at the time because we were getting ready to fight France, and he didn't want Spain united with France, so he sent him to Louisiana. So in Louisiana, there was a supporter because Madison, in a way, was supporting Gutierrez de Lara, and so he sent him to Louisiana, and so they came up with a plan. To make a long story short, de Lara starts coming in and he takes Nacogdoches away from the Spaniards, then he goes down to La Bahia. How many of you have driven during rush hour here in San Antonio? All of us, at one time or another. We complain at how long it takes us. Can you imagine these people were riding horses or were on foot? They had to walk this distance from here to here. I tell you, it was not easy. Anyway, so Joaquin Arredondo decides he's gonna come and take over and fight Gutierrez de Lara. So he gets up to Laredo and he sends a military squadron, I guess you might, no, not a squadron, it was too big, of 200 men to come and see what they were doing right in this area. And his name is, oh my gosh, not Escamilla, it's Espinosa, or, anyway, he gets over here, and I'll have you down to Medina. He tells him to go to the Frio River, and I'm saying, the Frio River? I live by the Frio River. And so the Frio River that he sent him to is located about 70 miles southwest of San Antonio. So he gets there, and he doesn't stop there because he's not going to obey. You know, many of us never follow our leaders, so we do what we want to do. So he goes over there, and he sends a message back to Joaquin Arredondo that he's a half a mile from San Antonio. Well, guess what? The Kemper and Menchaca decide, those were the two in charge because they took out Gutierrez anyway, they took Gutierrez out of there and they put them in charge. So they come and they attack him, and he didn't put any outpost lookouts. And it was Sunday and they were having a church service, so all the women, because they followed their men into battle and all of that, and the kids were there and they were holding a service. And so the Americanos and the Revolucionarios, Tejanos, went in there and bombed the hell out of them, killing women and children and a lot of the men. So they all ran back and went to Laredo and told Joaquin Arredondo what happened. So that just infuriated him. So he comes back and marching and tells his one in command to come and meet him in Medina. So they're marching into Medina. A lot of these men are on foot. They don't have any horses. And it's in the middle of summer. You guys have been out here in the middle of summer. You don't last long. You go inside to the air conditioning place. The temperatures range anywhere between 100 and 111. So when Arredondo gets there, his counterpart over here is coming back, and one of the Mexican soldiers gets lost because Menchaca and Kemper didn't know where the Mexican army that had just bombed was located. So the guy that was lost on the Mexican side bumps into them. So then they start shooting. So then they find out the Mexican army here is where they are. So they rush back and tell Arredondo that they're coming. Well, the Americanos, Tejanos, thought it was a small army of 300 soldiers. Unbeknownst to them, Arredondo had over 1,900 soldiers with him. So what Arredondo did was he arranged his military and made a big V. And the Kemper and Menchaca didn't know this. So the small Mexican army that had been sent out there to scout came back because Arredondo told them to come in through the V, the wide open V. So when they came in, guess what? Arredondo enclosed the wide end of the V together and they started shooting. They killed over 1,300 Tejanos and Americanos. Joaquin Arredondo only lost 55 men because they were very well prepared. And the men had fought in different areas and they were with guerrilla warfare, so they were very, very trained for that. So what happens then, they didn't bury them. They left the bodies out there, and so of course the animals started dragging arms and heads and everything. So he goes on. 9 years later, and this is very interesting. Let's go to the next slide. 9 years later, a colonel comes in and he sees the skulls everywhere. And he felt the need to bury these skulls. So he only found 900 out of the 1,300 because all the other body parts and everything had been dragged off by coyotes and other kinds of, don't worry about it. It's okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's right here. I'm gonna show you, go ahead. Colonel Tres Palacios gathered all those skulls and buried them under an oak tree, and he carved a cross under that oak tree. He buried them on the convergence of the Medina River and the San Antonio River. Don't ask me where this place is located. I will give you an idea. Okay, I'm gonna show you this. I want to tell you, do not go out there because it's private property. I don't want you getting arrested, and I don't want anybody coming after me because I showed you more or less the location. They said at the convergence, it could have been 5 miles, it could have been anywhere. The convergence of the San Antonio River, let's see, here's the 1604. This right here is Elmendorf. This community right here is Elmendorf. So you have the convergence of the San Antonio River and the Medina River coming right in here. So they buried those 900 heads somewhere in here. You probably won't find it. And I don't blame them because if it was my property, it would have been, that tree would have already been gone because the state would have been in there and declared it a national or a historical park for Texas, which it was, even though it was the enemy. So once, let me retract a little. And you know who was with him? A young man by the name of, does anybody know the name? Santa Anna. Santa Anna was a junior lieutenant under Joaquin Arredondo. So when Joaquin Arredondo came into San Antonio, he ran and he went through every home and every house and arrested every Tejano that was sympathetic to the cause, to the revolution, and to the Americanos. He gathered about 700 men and about 8 to 15 Americanos. So then, what he did was, and I looked it up, and it says it's the San Fernando Church. They had a cell without any windows or anything, and you gotta remember, it's in July, the beginning of August. He put 300 men into this one particular cell, and there was no room. They were only standing room only. The first night, 18 men suffocated. They couldn't lay down, they couldn't sit down, they were all standing. So the next day, that second day, he took 40 men out of the 300, took them out, he shot them, he executed them. They dragged them around the plazas around here. When they got back, they cut their heads off, they cut their arms off, and they started hanging them all around the trees. 40 men. Thereafter, every day, from there on out, he took 3 men and did the same thing every day. Well, as if that was not bad enough, he gathered all the women, about 500 women, and he had them inside that cuartel also. The sad thing about it is that Arredondo was arresting farmers and ranchers. Well, who was going to feed them after he put them all to death? So he had women making corn tortillas every day. They were using 24 bushels of corn. How many of you know how many pounds per bushel? I'll be honest with you, I didn't know it either. I looked it up. It was 58 pounds per bushel. So I calculated that, and I can't remember how many that equaled, but I will tell you right now, on a daily basis, and I'm guessing, I know that it's more than 1 ounce per tortilla because I make tortillas. And so 1 bushel is 56 pounds, so you multiply 56 pounds times 24 bushels. It gives you 1,344 pounds a day of corn that they were using. Wow. So if you calculate that at 1 ounce per tortilla, those women were making 21,504 tortillas a day. Wow. I make flour tortillas. I have all the conveniences of a propane stove. I make 12 tortillas and I'm tired. I don't think I could have survived that. Anyway, so when he was doing that, he used a scorched earth attitude. It was the first shock and awe in Texas, and it was the bloodiest battle in Texas. But you know what? In order for him to have control, he needed to put fear into the people. And he succeeded. However, as the days went by, you're not going to have a lot of corn left if you're putting your ranchers and farmers to death. Not only that, but what I failed to mention was that the Lipan Apaches and the Tonkawas had joined the Americans or the Americanos and the Texas Revolucionarios in their battle. And they saw this as an opportunity when they were taking their ranchers. Hey, the cows were roaming freely, everything. So they went in there on a rampage and they started clearing up. So, hey, where were they going to get the food to feed all these military soldiers? Well, that caused the main government down in Monterrey upset with General Arredondo, so they pushed him back, they brought him back. In the meantime, while all of this is happening, you have Antonio de Santa Anna gambling, and he was forging General Arredondo's signature because he needed money to gamble. So he forged $500, and he was very charismatic. He was able to stay out of jail. To make a long story short, 23 years, 25 years later, what does he do? He comes back as the leader. How many of you know the flag of 1824? Do you know what that stands for?
The Constitution of 1824.
1824 gave people choices, freedom of speech, individuality, the Second Amendment, and it also, they did not believe in slavery. So the Americanos that were settling in Texas wanted to have slaves with them. Well, you know how they got around that? That the black slaves had a 99-year work contract. How many of you would like to work with a 99-year working contract? None of us would. So that's how they tried to circumvent. But then Santa Anna was appointed to go ahead and go up north, but he was so popular that he appointed people to help him, and they destroyed the Constitution, overthrew the Mexican government, and he appointed himself the ruler, and he wanted to become king just like Napoleon. Well, that was not going to work. So he comes in here and settles all around with his 6,000 men. When he was here that night, on March the 5th, the temperatures were down in the low 30s. And if you look at YouTube, I have a story of 2 young boys that came up with it, because he was bringing I guess ravaging the communities, the villas, from their men and teenage boys. And it's a sad story, but it happened. And I'm sure it happened something like that. And so now I bring you to the Alamo. And I believe that we all need to understand where we're coming from. Because we can celebrate the Alamo, but if you don't know the origins, then we're lost. We can say, remember the Alamo, but if you don't know the reason, it's pointless. And I'm kind of glad that we lost the war, because the way things are right now, I wouldn't want to be in Mexico. And in doing what General Arredondo did, he took all their guns away. So remember that. And they couldn't defend themselves against Indians, they couldn't defend themselves against anything, especially tyranny. So I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this research. I was so excited, you guys, when you read that research and you hear them about going through here, through there, and the cactus and all of that. We've lived it, we've walked it, we know, we understand, we've been caught in traffic. To drive or walk 50 miles without any shoes is a very sad, enlightening moment. So I encourage you to do your history, understand why we're here, why this shrine means so much to us. And regardless, I am very proud of both cultures. I don't know if I'm related to him or not, but he had wives everywhere. And my grandfather's last name was Arredondo on my dad's side, and he had a horrible personality. I feared that old man because he was mean, and when I was reading this, I said it must run in the blood. I am not like that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's our history lesson for the day, right?
Absolutely.
Love the lady. Love the lady. And on a side note, I have to admit, my family are Lipan Apache. Yeah, so, alrighty, moving right along here, the next thing I want to say is, I've had some comments of people liking our shirts here, and we didn't bring any, but for those of you that are interested, you can just go on our website, txfreedomforce.org, and you can order some. We have plenty, and just reach out to us. Our next guest I wanted to introduce, I've only met him for a year ago, a strong patriot, Texan, and I tell you what though, I'm glad that I know him. He's a good friend of ours now. It's KD.
First of all, thank you all for coming. I am going to read a little bit today, so forgive me because it's a lot of history that I had a lot of help on. I can't begin to thank everybody that's been a part of my following for the last few years. But just know, we are here to protect our heritage, our history, and our freedom, and our liberty, and more importantly, our children. So remember El Alamo before it was a beautiful, before it was a battlefield for Texas independence. The Spaniards built the old mission El Alamo, so named by the Spanish troops who occupied the mission as an outpost from their presidio, San Antonio de Bejar. Mission San Antonio del Valero, here behind me, was built along the San Antonio River in approximately 1718 by Spanish Franciscan missionaries and the native Indians who joined the mission. Not far from here, on the other side of the San Antonio River, was a settlement and military presidio, San Antonio Bejar. What later became known as San Fernando, the center of the settlement, then named San Antonio. The Franciscan friars' mission lasted nearly 70 to 79 years. It is believed the friars stored their scrolls in El Alamo. However, time along with battle after battle, the scrolls are considered to be lost. Spain secularized Mission San Antonio del Valero with the other four missions, and El Alamo became home to Spanish troops. Shortly after the fall of, bear with me here, Tenochtitlan, now known as the City of Mexico, Spain expanded its colonization to the majority of North America. Although Spain only managed to control South Texas, what is now known as Rio Grande Valley and Spanish Mexico. It was the Comanches who controlled central North Texas, and the Apaches controlled West Texas, and the Pecos into New Mexico. Spain expanded settlements across Texas by building mission settlements and presidios. The plan was to have St. Francis Order of Franciscan friars spread Christianity, teach Spanish culture, and the Spaniards with the colonial forces provided protection. The Spaniards' orders were to protect the roadways, trade routes. However, the Spanish troops battled hostile Indians across Texas, north of the Rio Grande Valley, and their orders were extended to protect the settlements. Before the Alamo was a battleground for Texas independence, a land with wild open skies covered with cottonwood trees and prairie cactus. In 1800, that's what the Spanish soldiers saw. Mission San Antonio de Valero reminded them of their home, El Alamo de Parras, in Coahuila, Mexico. Then Texas, part of the Coahuila province of Mexico. However, by 1810, Spanish control of Texas was in jeopardy again. When Santa Anna, who thought of himself as a Napoleon of Mexico, became the new president of Mexico. As president, Santa Anna discarded the old Spanish Constitution, established itself as a dictator, and imposed tariffs on Texas landowners. Within 2 years, Austin tried to appeal to the Mexican government. When all efforts failed, Austin campaigned that Texas should secede from Mexico. And so it began. It would become the battle rally cry for Texans who fought in the Battle of San Jacinto in the war between the states to World War II. Marines in Iraq named their battle tank Alamo. San Antonio has often been the center of battles across Texas for decades. Texans have been, and to this day, fight for independence, land rights, rights to liberty, rights to prosperity, rights to protect others, our children, and our homes. Patriots, I'll tell you that there's nothing more important right now than to fight for what we have.
Yeah!
I fight all over this state, wherever I can, and I fight for generations to come. That's who we have to save. In order to save them, we have to save our history.
Yep.
Thank God for people like Texas Freedom Force that are patriots that stand out here no matter what the weather is to protect your monuments and protect your heritage.
Yeah!
Let it be remembered to those who survived. Susanna Dickinson was only 21 and the mother of a baby daughter, Angelia, when she became a heroine. Surviving the fall of the Alamo was not an easy task. Being a patriot for Texas and for our country takes passion and love to fight for what we believe in, not just for ourselves, but for others. Out of respect, Susanna was not the only survivor of the Alamo. There was a black man named Joe and several Mexican women and children who also survived. Today I mention them and say thank you. Survivors like them is what makes Texas strong and America proud. God bless all of you.
Okay, Dave, yeah. Appreciate you. Moving right along, right? It's a good show and a good day. I love Texas.
Yeah.
I know we all do, right?
Yeah.
Yes! Our history is full of hard-nosed people. We're not soft and we're not full of butterflies, right? Texans have always been a hard group of people and I'm proud. So right now, I want to introduce somebody. I know y'all seen through our history books. Mr. David Crockett here, yeah. Call him.
Thank you, Texans. Yes, sir. It's an honor to be with you. I fell off my horse, I'm embarrassed to say, so, and I am 200 years old. But I have to say, Texians, I'm a little disappointed in you. I came here to Texas 188 years ago to fight against a narcissistic dictator.
Sir.
And here you are, 188 years later, still fighting against a narcissistic dictator.
Yes, sir.
Oh, somebody said, Biden? No, I meant Vladimir Putin. Who do you think I started? Folks, freedom isn't free.
No.
That's right.
And freedom takes force.
Yes, sir.
We have known that throughout our history. You know, there was a place called the Lexington Green in April. That anniversary's coming up here pretty soon. A bunch of patriots stood in that fork in the road. Said, hold the line, men. Wait till you see the whites of their eyes. If war is to start, let it start here with us today.
Amen.
Freedom takes force. And those men were willing to fight for it. You know, the fight wasn't for them. In fact, the British said, you Yanks, get out of the way. Our quarrel's not with you. They were heading to conquer. Those men stood their ground. They held the line. Why were them redcoats heading to Concord? You see, they were heading to Concord to confiscate the arms and ammunition that were being held by the Patriots. And of course, a shot rang out that day. Of course, the British said it was the Patriots. The Patriots said it was the British. Everybody agrees it was a pistol shot. And the only pistols on the battlefield that day were being held by the British officers. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. Come on.
But the shot heard around the world. The igniter for our great revolution was gun control.
Come on.
We must know our history, or we're likely to repeat our mistakes, aren't we?
Yeah.
So often. You know, I was informed by President Burkhart there that he updated me a lot of amazing things, incredible things about our history and the things that have happened. He said that the government tried to ban the importation of assault rifles. Yeah. Well, that year was 1775.
Yep. Come on.
When the British decided they wanted to ban the importation of this assault rifles, as they called it. Of course, we call it a freedom rifle. Right. They held the line. We must know our history, or we're likely to repeat it. He told me that out there on the left coast, I think they call it California, that they're trying to take American history out of the classroom. So they have more time to prepare for some kind of test or something. You know, he told me there was a fellow named Carl that said a people without a heritage are easily manipulated. His name was Karl Marx.
Wow.
We must know our history, or we're likely to repeat it. And that's what this beautiful monument behind me stands for. It's our history. It's our heritage. We have a heritage. The children in our classrooms need to know that.
Yes. Yes.
And it's up to us to make sure that it's never forgotten. Brother Burkhart showed me that beautiful picture of a lot of you patriots, you Texians, standing in front of this monument to protect it from those that would tear down our history, that would destroy our heritage. And you proudly stood here and defended it. You held the line like we did at this very spot as we fought for the freedom. And we used force, yes. And we were willing to sacrifice. And just like you, when you stood here a few days ago, a few months ago, you didn't stand here because you hated what was in front of you. You stood here because you loved what was behind you.
Amen.
And same reason we stood on this very ground and sacrificed our lives so that you had the opportunity for the freedoms that you have today. And so Texians, carry on. Be willing to stand up and be counted. And if it comes to it, use force.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Amen. You know, when Patrick Henry said, when tyranny becomes law, treason becomes responsibility. He also said, if this be treason, make the best of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't it how interesting, if you stand for freedom, you will be labeled with all kinds of labels.
Yeah.
Get used to it. Wear it proudly. Amen, brother. That's what I heard. Folks, let's stand for Texas. Let's stand for our heritage. Let's make sure that our children know why these men fought and died here. It wasn't because of the color of their skin.
No.
1 in 6 that battled for the freedom of Texas was Hispanic, Latino. It wasn't about color or race. It was about tyranny and freedom. And let's not let them ever forget it or change the narrative of this sacred place. God bless you and God bless Texas.
Lady Crockett, yeah. All right, folks. I'm glad our speaker showed up, but one thing I wanted to let y'all know. I'm glad that Mark Collins is here, but he's also taking donations. If you like what he had to say, and we want to have him again, he's taking donations. Miss Joanne here, she's got the hat, if you will, but we don't have the hat. So feel free. The next thing I want to let y'all know when we are done here shortly, many of us are going to be going over here to Moses Roses. And any of y'all from San Antonio, especially here, knows what's going on over here. As you've seen, a lot of these businesses are closed down. His business is the only one, only because he's fighting the city of San Antonio, because the money they want to give him to close down, like he says, is not enough for him to survive. He's got to pay bills, he's got to pay his employees, he's got to find another job. A lot of these folks out here that closed their business down or accepted that money from the city of San Antonio did it blindly. He's sticking to his guns. He is fighting tyranny, as Davy said here, and we are going to support him because we have fought the city of San Antonio plenty of times and we've come up on top.
That's right.
So just to let y'all know, if y'all want to join us, feel free. The only bad part is, y'all know you can't take your firearms in there. Dang, huh? Okay, again, I'd like to thank our guests for showing up. Dr. Arredondo Lynch, appreciate her. Mr. KD, where's he at? Where's he at? Mr. KD right there. I should see him, he's tall, right? Yeah, well. Okay, yeah. And also, don't forget Mark Collins here who played Davy. Yeah. I want to introduce you to another individual that we're all going to get to know in this next couple of months, or few months. Mike, come up here. Introduce yourself. How's everybody doing today?
Pretty good.
Good?
Cool. Hey, I am going to be running for mayor. Found out last Thursday that the mayor was running unopposed.
Oh, no.
And it is our duty as Americans not to ever let that happen.
Yes.
So I stood up and I drew the line in the sand. I said, I'm gonna run. At the very least, he's gonna have to wait till May to claim for victory.
There you go.
At the very least. But I am an American. I am here for America. And then after that, I'm Texan. And then it stops right there. I come from a Hispanic background. Both parents are from Texas. My grandparents now come from Mexico. So I still have a Mexican heritage. And that's fine. I'll use that to my advantage if I have to. That's okay. But I'm here to tell you that all this stuff that's happening back here, this is our history.
Yes.
Sir.
If it wasn't for this, we would not have this. We would not be America if it wasn't for that right there. I met this gentleman in Allen West a couple years ago when all the fires were happening and all the looting and was happening all over the states. And my question was, what about the rest of America? To me, New York is just as Texas as California and Washington State and Washington DC. It's all Texas, and it's all mine, and it's all yours. And if I can do something about it, I will. And if I have to start here, this is where I'll start. So I'm standing in the line. I'm gonna give you everything I have. I'll need your help though for that. But I'll give you everything I have to make things right. This is a catastrophe. And the mayor is helping the rest of the, I'll just say a deep state, into continue the catastrophe here in this city. I am not wanting Ohio to happen here.
Nope.
You know, so I will do what I can and I will stand in front. Politician is not my love, but America is. So, please, if I get your support, that'd be outstanding. My name is Michael Samaniego, retired Air Force, 23 years, Master Sergeant Sam. How's that one out? So if you see a Sam anywhere on the ballot, that's the name you pick.
You have a website? Website?
I'm gonna build everything up. This is all very new to me, folks. Like I said, you know, I like to build cars. I build cars. I like muscle cars. That's what I do. But I love my country, and I love Texas, and I love my people. So if I have to put my life on the line, that's what I'm here for. I was never in the Army, but I'm a soldier.
Freedom, baby!
Thank you.
Mayor Mike!
I think he deserves a bigger applause because Nuremberg was going to run unopposed.
Yeah.
Until this man found out, like the last day for filing,
Yes.
and went down and filed against him so that there would be a conservative alternative.
Yeah!
Thank you for that. That's stepping up and that's grassroots.
All right, member's name. If y'all need to be reminded, just walk up to him, because I got to write it down myself.
It's on the video too.
There you go. Watch our video. Now, the only bad thing for me is he was in the Air Force. We already had that discussion. But I'll still support him. Again, I want to thank everybody for showing up. This is Texas Freedom Force. Loves these events. We will continue these events no matter what the city says. And next time we do this event, make sure that Michael's our new mayor. Before we go, if anybody has any questions regarding what we do, this is Texas Freedom Force, feel free to come up to me and ask me any question y'all want. You can't do it right now because we're going to get ready to shut it down. Thank y'all for coming. We love y'all. God bless Texas.